So remember who is here next to me, the small head. Boyd is with us, huh? All the time. And some who have had the exam in the room upstairs, they have witnessed the big Boyd over there. So we invite our board member, Stefan Müller, to present his experience and a very valuable experience being an entrepreneur. Mr. Müller.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction and giving me, let's say, this 15 minutes here to share a bit some lessons learned, which I had in the past. Am I a typical entrepreneur? I don't know, because I worked in a very traditional industry. I was always in the PV industry, in the solar industry. I worked for BP Oil, so a very traditional oil company, but in the solar business. I worked for another company a few years, but always, I would say, quite equipped with a boss above me and some people below me. I always wanted to save the world. This was a bit my plan from the beginning. And when I started this, I went to a university in 1988, where solar energy was a bit spooky, yeah, so it was not real. And my father always told me, Stefan, do something real, yeah. Now he sits in the supervisory board of my company. So I think he is proud, and I'm also proud to show that if you believe in something, then you really can do something. Let me explain to you a bit how we build up Enerpark. Enerpark is I would say, a very young company. We are 7, 8 years old now. Started very traditional as a construction company of PV power plants. We always recognized that large companies fail because they want to do a lot of things at the same time. So we always hear about vertical and horizontal integration and everything. So I think these are a lot of words which are normally come from consultants when a company is a bit nearly in front of the insolvency. And we recognized, no, this is what we don't want. And then we thought about to build up our own company, and this was Enerpark. And we were 3 guys sitting in a room, had a good glass of wine, and then we scribbled down what we don't want. So it was a bit other way around, because we said, we know what we want, but we don't want a few things which was not planned. Yeah. So, and for example, my previous company where I worked for, they want to do a lot of things at the same time. So they focused on photovoltaic, but then they moved in 100 other things. Vertical manufacturing, we did biomass of slaughtery waste in India. So really, really hardcore different things. Yeah. And at the end, this company failed. And Enerpark was 100% focusing on one thing where we are good in it, and this is photovoltaic. To build up our own company, to be an entrepreneur, sounds always a bit easy, and again, you have some drinks and you think about something, but I can tell you it's not easy. Yeah? You need luck, you need also to be smart, and you have to be at the right moment at the right place. And you have probably to find another interesting person or another interesting person who finances your ideas. Yeah? So money is always a right focus. But on the other hand, I always can encourage people like you to be patient, but don't lose your idea, your interest. Trust in your gut feel. This is what I always did. Setting up an own company means also that you have to ask yourself in which cultural environment you are doing this. We just talked a bit about US. I think a few of you know the US series Shark Tank. Yeah? We have also a German version called Die Höhle des Löwen. Yeah? And I can only tell you, if you speak both languages, it's super interesting to see this and to see the difference. The Shark Tank is always focused on stories. People coming in, I developed something, I want to be billionaire. So everything is based on a story. In Germany, everything is related to numbers. But both countries are successful. So there is something probably which has to do with culture. And I think we should not lose the idea that if you want to build up something, you have to ask yourself what I want to do and in which environment I want to do it. I lived in India for a long time. So we worked together, we just met. I was your boss in Singapore, so great to see you here. And I think I think I did also probably something good in India, but would I be the right entrepreneur for India? Probably not. Yeah? So I think you have to ask in which environment you are. I think you should always focus on developing your ideas. You should not lose your concept in your mind, and you should not be afraid to challenge current conditions, which are actually there. And generally what we always see is it's usually the experts and the insiders who dismiss disruptive opportunities. So, for example, I help also some other companies to, let's say, to move their way. But I never question, I never challenge their business model. And I'm an expert in solar. I've seen 100 things. But you never know if tomorrow there is a change in the government or in the politics, or people want to be completely independent of others, or there is also a special situation in a special country, which means that my lessons learned, which I had before, has no impact anymore in your decision. And this is, you should have this in your mind, that very often this is the case why disruptive opportunities are passing away from the traditional industries. And we see it in Germany, RWE, yeah? E.ON, the big utilities. And it's not that they have not seen it, that there is a disruptive cost reduction in solar energy. They have seen it. But everything was too fast for them. And this is probably a way where small entrepreneurs who become large can jump into it. Let me share you also with my experience and probably a few tips. I only scribbled down for 4 of them. And again, an entrepreneur means not only always be success. I mean, it's always dark nights and it can be also bright day, but like in a normal life. So you have to celebrate the success, and we did it. So, but also we had also sleepless nights. Yeah? So we didn't pay our salary for a few months because we had already some employees, and we saved the money to pay the salaries. And we didn't talk about it. I think the best ideas are generally always coming when you sit together like here, or in a glass of wine, and I see already a few bottles of champagnes are there. So, and again, it's always good to think about it. But what I also learned by myself is it's not always good to build up a company with friends. Because friends very often have the same view and the same opinion. You have probably a lot of fun, but you don't have a different view, a different opinion. We formed the company with 3 guys. One of them is and still is a good friend of mine, but he's a complete different personality. And the other guy is a super conservative finance director. And he don't want to be in this role, but we pushed him in this role to be the pessimistic guy, to raise the finger and say, guys, do we really want to do this project in Kazakhstan? Yeah? So another topic is, it is also important that when you build up a team, you should always have in your mind that different team members have a different view into the future and have a different background and have a different family situation. So what I can only recommend if you build up an organization with your peers or with your co-investors, speak openly about your dreams, about your fears, about your thoughts. Speak about different risk profiles. Yeah? I think it is quite open to, it is quite important that you share this view, especially when you are in critical situations, when you have to re-inject equity. From whom the money is coming? Family, friends? I think what is also important, this is what I learned from a large company, business coaching. I mean, it's a bit inflational, this word. Everyone is now a coach. So I don't really like to use this word. Call it whatever, a friend who listens to you. Yeah? And it doesn't have to be a person that he's super deep in the industry. He has only to be there to give you a different view, to have a mirror which can explain you a bit how you are, if you are nervous, if you are active, if you cannot sleep, if you make wrong decisions. Yeah? A coach is good, would be ideally, but a friend can also be the same person. I think what is also important, that if you build up your own company, you should not do this by yourself. You should find somebody else. But you should also integrate your environment into it. You will come in a critical situation where you have to tell your partner something is going wrong. We lost the money. Or you come in a situation that you want to explain how good everything is and you want to celebrate it together. So I'm in the lucky situation, my wife is also an entrepreneur, so we can speak openly about it. But she has no idea about solar, but it doesn't matter. Yeah? So I think it was always important for me when I came home and my wife addressed some fears or some issues, and I could not explain it to her. I could not take away the fear. Then generally I recognized I also didn't understand it. So I went back to my colleagues and tried to get more information about it. Then I come back in the evening and explain it again. Even if it's very complicated. And it was always a test for me if I really understood the issue. I can only recommend to everyone here, develop your ideas, be patient, but you also, in generally, need to develop access to working capital. Yeah? This is the key of everything. And even if you have such a disruptive ideas coming up now, like Uber or other things, 80% of the companies die, young entrepreneurial companies die after the first year. And it's not because the business case is not good, because of cash, because of working capital, nothing else. Yeah? And this is what you have to develop from the beginning. That means if you look for an investor, and there are a lot of business angels out right now, there's so much equity in the market, people are desperately looking for ideas. Yeah? But take your time, go through some rounds, what we did. So when we started our business, we made some test rounds. We talked to some crazy private equity guys from US, to Chinese people who could not speak English. So we did everything. And then we found out, okay, this is not the guy which I want to work with in the future. So you should not jump on the first train and say, now I have it. So think a bit about it. I think, and you should be also, I don't know if the word is correct, please correct me. I tried to look at it, which means demütig. Humbly, is the right word? Humbly? Yeah? If you are successful. Yeah? And this is, for example, which we see, unfortunately, in Germany very often. If somebody is successful, then everyone is a bit greedy and everything. So try to fly under the radar, which is not so bad. You cannot do it in US, you have to play the drum. This is a different thing, but this is what I mean with cultural differences. But at the moment, I think we are in a great situation, and there's enough to do to save the world, wherever we are. It's in India, Singapore, Australia, we just talked about it, and a few other places. And I think the time was not better than now, because it is very obvious that disruptive ideas can and will and change our life dramatically. And you can be part of it. So good luck.